You're good, Ken. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We've got 18 participants, attendees with us. Ms. Scott, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen and getting us started. So once again, welcome to the Jefferson Elementary School District's webinar on the new homeschool independent study option for families being offered this year. My name is Bernie Vidalis. I am superintendent of the Jefferson Elementary School District. Here with us today to help in our presentation, we have Ms. Pam Scott, who is our assistant superintendent of educational services, and Mr. Brent Valenti, who is our assistant superintendent of human resources. So together today, we're going to be giving you an overview of the learnings that we had from last year, as well as where we're going this year. So the first slide here is a high-level overview of last year. What we learned last year was that safety practices worked for us here in Jefferson Elementary School District. The practices that we put into place last year were that everybody wears masks in our classrooms, that we would maximize the distancing between students and adults and students and students, that we would regularly wash our hands or use hand sanitizers, that we enhanced the ventilation by opening doors and windows. Some classrooms had portable air filters. Other classrooms who had larger air handling systems, their filters were equipped with the MERV 13 level of air filter, which is more powerful than the portable air filter. And we limited our visitors and gatherings to school. So in the summer of 2020, in the spring of 2021, and the summer of 2021, we did not experience any school-based transmission of COVID-19 among our students or our staffs. That's not, well, yeah, so there's no transmission of the virus in the school setting. And we believe that was due to the very strict protocols that we put into place. Another learning that we had from last year was that children benefit greatly from in-person interactions and learning. Many of our students, when they came back, expressed how much they missed their friends. And our staff noticed that some academic progress lagged from what might be expected at that grade level for the month of March or April. We saw similar findings in our summer school programs this summer. The other aspect that was lagging is that our children's social skill development was lagging. Students forgot what it was like to work with others and alongside others. And those are things that we took very seriously, helping us to develop the goal that in this current year, we would like to maximize in-person instruction while implementing public health guidance. The next slide, please. So at the same time, the California Department of Public Health was noticing this across the state of California. They came up with a foundational statement that read, all students must have access to safe and full in-person instruction and to as much instructional time as possible. You may have recognized that last year we had shortened days, and for much of the year we were not in person. Some students were able to experience in-person instruction toward the end of the year, I have a story of one student in one of our middle schools who did not like school very much before COVID. And he was one of the students that was brought back early because they were not engaging in the home setting with their instruction. And after the first day of working at school, even though it was still virtual, he left with a big smile and he said, "I had the best school day ever." And the only thing that changed was that he got to learn alongside his peers in a room with them. That was a sentiment that was echoed in many of our eighth grade graduation speeches by our eighth graders. Students like and enjoy working and learning alongside their peers. So the state of California realizes that not every child is going to be able to return. They made an exception this and identified that some students who suffer from health conditions that make in-person instruction to their health need another option. This would include students who are immune compromised, who are organ transplant recipients, or have other severe conditions that make the potential infection very dangerous to their health. Normal children who are healthy tend to have very mild reactions to any infection, including COVID-19. But students that have some of these conditions, it could be very severe illness that results. So California law this summer allows school districts to offer a long-term independent study program. Our regular independent study is 2 or 3 weeks, but for this year, we can offer it for the full year. And what this program is, like the independent study that maybe some of you have taken in the past, when you go away on a family trip outside of the country or to another city, the school district is able to support families to be the teachers of their children in their home. There's very little teacher instruction time. Teachers will assign the work. They'll explain the work. They'll have some minimal interactions, and we'll explain later what that is. But the parents are the primary teachers for the students. The district will provide materials and will provide technology so that students can access their in-person time, but it is nowhere near what was experienced last year in our distance learning program or our virtual school program. Those models are not allowed by the state legislature. Next. Other considerations that families need to understand is that any student that has an individual education plan that qualifies for special education will need to schedule an IEP team meeting to have them review the desire to be an independent study and have them recommend that independent study is one of the best ways for them to meet their individual IEP goals. So that has to happen first before they can apply. Another aspect that needs to be considered is that once a student is assigned to this homeschool independent study program, they will be disenrolled from their classroom and enrolled in the independent study program. And should that family decide to return to in-person instruction, we will give preference. So if there's space, they can go back. If there's no space, that student will need to be assigned to another classroom in the school district or stay on independent study. And then when the new school year begins, if there's space, they can be brought back to their school where they started or they were originally assigned. But if there's no space, an alternate assignment will be offered. Independent study, different from what we did last year, requires that there be a responsible adult who is present with the student throughout the day, supporting the learning, and in many ways, actually doing much of the teaching. And the student, in order for the district to be able to offer this program, we need to be able to assign, and students need to be expected to return approximately 4 to 5 hours of independent school work every day. That's a lot more work. Last year, we called it asynchronous, and that's independent work, than we did last year. Next slide. So that's just a general overview of the independent study program. Later, we're going to go more in depth. But right now, some of you don't have health conditions. Your students don't have health conditions, but you're very concerned about sending your students to in-person school. So Mr. Valenti is going to go over what the program in our schools is going to be and what the safety practices are that we will be putting into place to support the continued health of students and staff.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Brent Marquez Valenti. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources for the district. I'm going to go ahead and put my share the screen. And then I will present, excuse me. All right. Very good. Can you all see that out there? Right. So I'm presenting our district safe opening and COVID protection plan. This was presented to the Board of Education last night. And it's built on the plan that we worked on last year. So just to begin, I want to ensure you that this plan is built looking through an equity lens. We want to ensure that the health and safety of our students, our staff, and the whole community at large. And to do that, we want to make sure that we are providing all of our students and staff with safe access to full day in-person instruction. As Mr. Vidalis had mentioned, we had great success with our 2 summer programs over the last 2 years, as well as our program of in-person learning that we began in April, and that there were no cases of COVID that was transmitted at the school site. So we're very pleased with that. We feel that's very representative of the seriousness that we take the health and safety of our students. Also, a big focus is on fostering our social emotional well-being of the students. And now with 12-year-old students and older being able to receive the vaccination, we're really focusing on the vaccination of all eligible students and staff. This updated information is based on new guidance from the California Department of Public Health, which is tied to the Center for Disease Control guidance. And as Mr. Vidalis mentioned, our focus is that all students must have safe and full-time access to in-person instruction. That's our prerogative. And that everyone, to do this, we want to ensure you that everyone on campus, there will be universal face covering for staff and students when instruction takes place indoors. We will be striving to maintain at least 3 feet of physical distance whenever possible. You might remember in the past, it was a 6-foot mandatory social distancing. The guidance is now to strive to maintain at least 3 feet, and we're comfortable that we'll be able to do that. But that's tied with universal face coverings. We'll also be continuing to support the regular hand hygiene, washing hands, and we're using hand sanitizer, as well as the enhanced ventilation in the classrooms excuse me, that was in place and that has protected our students and staff since they've been coming back into school. We know that the surest path to maintain a safe and full in-person instruction is to get COVID-19 rates down through the community. And the factors that are being looked at by the state and local health officials are the level of community transmission of COVID-19, the vaccination rates, which right now in Daly City is at 80%, which is very high. The Bay Area as well is very high. And also monitoring any COVID-19 outbreaks or trends and keeping in touch with that information, and also implementing any quarantine practices which are new. It's targeted, as I mentioned, kids 12 and older are eligible for vaccines, so there is a different quarantine practice for students that are vaccinated than those that are not. And I want to reiterate that these procedures will be continually updated as information comes out from our local and state health agencies. First and foremost is our health and safety. We will have and enforce universal face coverings for all of our students and all of our employees on campus while any indoor instruction is taking place. I reiterated before that the importance of hand hygiene, washing hands, sanitizing hands. This is something that we did last year and was very successful in mitigating any transmission. As far as health screenings are concerned, staff will be self-screening, making sure that they're taking note of any fevers or coughs or sore throats, and if there is, that they would not come into the school setting. We're asking families to continue to do their screenings at home like they did in the fall and they've done during the summer programs. And if students are not feeling well or have any indicators, that they're not sent to school. While we're not going to have visitors on campus unless they're providing services to our students, anybody on campus from outside will have their temperatures taken, will answer health screening questions, again, to maintain the integrity of the school campus, which was very important to our success in the fall, in the spring and during the summer. Ventilation and filtration. We will be running our air handling systems with the MERV 13 filtration in those schools that have that, as well as we have our HEPA filters in those classrooms that do not, because we know that maximizing airflow is one of the most effective ways to maintain a healthy environment. Classroom doors and windows will be open at all time, weather permitting, and making sure to utilize any outside space for instructional use as much as possible. This is something that was successful in the spring, and we're going to encourage that again. Maintaining a clean classroom environment, school environment. The safety and staff of our students is our first priority. And the guidance we're receiving, which is a little different than last year, is that a once-a-day cleaning is usually enough to provide sufficient removal of potential viruses that may be on surfaces. Just a reminder, cleaning is mopping, vacuuming, removing trash, but also cleaning touch points on doors and light switches. And this will happen every day. Should there be a positive case at the school, the district will be using disinfectants approved by the Environmental Protection Agency to work against COVID, to remove any remaining germs on surfaces, to reduce any risk of spreading infection. All of our custodial and maintenance employees have been well trained on this, and we'll continue with this into the new school year. Physical distancing, I had mentioned, pardon me, the cafeteria and meal periods. Unlike last year when students would have to get what we called grab and go, where they would get their lunch at the end of the day and take it home, the guidance now is that there's no need to limit food service to just single use. So students will be eating lunch on campus, going into the multi-use room. We will be providing breakfast and lunch each day like we've done in the past. We are asking schools to consider maybe a staggered schedule during their lunch period to ensure there's no crowding and again, to maximize social distancing, as well as encouraging folks to eat outside and providing tables to those schools that might need them to do that. As always, our frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned regularly. The homeschool or independent study students will be receiving meals from their school, but they'll be getting it on multiple days per week. So they might get Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesdays meals on Monday, and then Thursday, Friday on Thursday. So that'll be some more information should families choose the independent study model. However, the rest of our students will be eating on campus. Vaccination for eligible students and staff. We know that COVID-19 vaccination is one of the most effective ways to reduce transmission in our community, and we strongly recommend it for all eligible staff, students, and adults sharing homes with our students. As you're aware, students over the age of 12 are eligible to receive a vaccine. We did host several clinics in the end of the school year last year. For additional information, please look at the Safe School Hub's website and vaccine all 58 information. Mr. Vidalis had put that out to the community last week in his message. Physical distancing. So recent evidence indicates that in-person instruction can safely occur without the minimum physical distancing requirements that we had last year. Last year, we had 6 feet of physical distancing. That limited also the number of students per day in a classroom. While we will strive to maintain at least 3 feet of physical distancing, which will allow our regular classroom averages of 24 students in preschool through 3rd grade averages, or up to 32 in our 4th grade through 8th grade classrooms. I mind you that some classrooms might have fewer students, while some might have a few more, but we have larger classroom spaces available that would allow for that. And again, encouraging as much as possible that instruction could take place outside. As far as social gatherings is concerned, last year there was a strict guideline that there could be no social gatherings of more than 50 people. Right now, we have not received any more information, so we're going to stick with that we will not have, we will limit our indoor gatherings. We can do things outside with more people as orientations come for middle school or kindergarten, and our schools and our admin are working to accommodate families. But you should be aware that it's likely that back to school night, family meetings, and book fairs and other things like school board meetings might continue to be remote, such as we have now. As soon as we have more information about that, we will communicate that. Also, our after-school sports program or on-campus volunteering will not be taking place until we receive further guidance from the California Department of Public Health. Just as a review, some of the things that changed. Last year, we had universal face coverings for staff and students indoors and outdoors. It will be the same for indoors, universal face coverings. However, the guidance is outside. There would be an option not to wear your mask if you have space between yourself and others. We will strive to have 3 feet of physical distancing whenever possible. We're going from a half day of hybrid instruction or virtual instruction, which was twice a week, to full day in-person instruction 5 days a week. All of our students will be in class full day. Our breakfast and lunch will happen on campus, unlike before where we had our grab and go. We will be reinstituting our after-school programs from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., but we will continue to limit indoor gatherings, encourage frequent hand washing, continue with our enhanced ventilation and filtration process. And of course, per our meeting tonight, we do not have a virtual classroom option, but we will have our home study and independent study option. We did not have a vaccine available last year until 2021, early 2021. This year, anybody 12 or older is eligible, and we are going to continue to encourage that. Last year, we had COVID testing every 2 weeks on campus for staff. This year, if there is a concern or if there is a close contact, that would be something healthcare providers would take care of. So there are some changes, but I want to reiterate, we had great success with our program last year, as well as with our 2 summer programs, and I'm confident that we'll continue that into the fall. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay. All right, I am Pam Scott. I'm the new Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. And tonight I will be reviewing some of what's already been said and also just sharing some more details about this year's homeschool independent study option. We're first going to look at 2 key terms, live interaction and synchronous instruction. And then we will look at the requirements for both elementary and middle school students in this new program. We'll review the key elements, discuss the written agreement that will need to be signed, and the evaluation of the program. So to begin, live interaction means an interaction between the student, staff, and/or peer. And the goal for the live interaction is to maintain school connectedness. This would look like wellness checks, progress monitoring, provision of services, and instruction. This would happen in person, via the internet, or by phone. And then synchronous instruction is the live 2-way communication between the teacher and the student, which will be provided by a credentialed teacher, and again, delivered in person, online, or via phone communications. As you've heard earlier, the interaction requirements are much less than they were the previous year. For grades TK through 3, there is a requirement for daily synchronous instruction. And in grades 4 through 8, it's daily live interaction, which again could be with a peer or a staff member, and then weekly synchronous instruction. So again, to review some of the key elements, we require that students have adult supervision to complete and turn in approximately 4 to 5 hours of schoolwork daily. The student must attend and participate daily and demonstrate adequate progress. And the student needs to be able to come to a district facility to complete assessments, receive services, or receive or return materials, assignments, or devices as needed. Again, a student with an IEP may only participate in independent study if the student's individualized education program specifically provides for such participation. Also, a student who is categorized as an English learner will receive opportunities to engage in designated as well as integrated English language development. For the 2021-22 school year only, the district will ask for a signed written agreement for independent study no later than 30 days after the first day of instruction. And then to remain on the homeschool independent study program, students must make satisfactory progress. That looks like attending class daily and completing a minimum of 60% of assignments in any subject area during any grading period. So again, just to review the difference between distance learning that was offered last year versus this year's homeschool independent study program. Last year, for live synchronous instruction, students had at least 120 minutes daily. With our new program, students will have in TK through 3, 45 minutes a day, and its students in grades 4 through 8 will be provided 45 minutes a week of live instruction. As a parent, your role last year was much more of a supportive role, helping students organize and gain access online to their classes. Whereas this year, your role as a parent or guardian is much more of an instructional role as well as an organizational one. And then peer interaction will be quite different than it was last year. Last year, students were online learning together, again, for at least 120 minutes a day. And this year, it would be, again, TK through 3, 45 minutes a day, and grades 4 through 8, 45 minutes a week. So if this is still a program that you are interested in, this is the process. After tonight, there will be a form sent out for you to complete indicating your intent to participate. The second step, you will receive contact from your current school by the administrator to fully make sure you understand the requirements and the process. After that, you'll have a conference with the independent study administrator. During that conference, you will review the written agreement and sign. And then the last step is to be enrolled in the homeschool independent study program. All right, so I think I'll turn it back over to Superintendent Vidalis.
Thank you. So no doubt there are questions, and we anticipate that. You have two ways of asking those questions. I believe you have the opportunity to use the chat at the bottom of your screen. There's a little speech bubble that says chat. You can put your question there, or you can email your question to the email here on the screen. info@jeffersonesd.org. And the intent to participate form will be posted on our district website tomorrow. Ms. Scott, if you would go down, I did create a new slide that has a link to it if you want to get it today. It's probably 2 more slides. Yep, there you go. You can take a picture of that. I know it's a lot of letters. I chose to make it smaller and shorter, but if you take a picture of that and you type in all of those letters later into your browser, you should be able to get to the intent to participate in an independent study form. And it's a series of questions. We're collecting information on our students who families believe qualify. There is a question about the health condition that you believe qualifies your student to participate in independent study. There is, what else do we put in there? Oh yeah, just affirmations that you understand that you may lose your spot at your school, that you live in the Jefferson Elementary School District, that the student is nearby, and also that, I think those are the two. Oh yeah, that you've watched this webinar. Those of you who are here, you would say yes. For families who are not here, we will be posting this recording on our website so that they can watch it and get the general overview. So I do notice that we have a question here. Let me read it out loud. So how does independent home study differ from online private school? Is a kindergartner able to attend an online private school and move on to first grade next year as a private school called K-12 acceptable? So the online private school, they have a special charter. that describes what their program is, which is different than a public schools program. So that for this particular question, if a kindergartner starts there, and then next year wants to come back to the Jefferson Elementary School District, they are able to return as a first grader. You know your students best. I taught kindergarten for many years, and I would not utilize an online program for a kindergartner. That's my own personal choice. If I were you, I would skip the year, play with your child at home, and then start them the following year in kindergarten. I think that's probably healthier for them. That's just my personal opinion. You may have a different one. Okay, so you asked about the K-12 school. I don't know much about any of the online charter schools. That would be something, or private schools, that would be something you would need to look into yourself. But if they are accredited, then we will recognize that as a year of instruction. Let's see. So another question. What kind of schoolwork are the kids going to do? Manual, paper with pen, or online? This is for sixth graders. So probably a little bit of both. There may be some work packets that need to be picked up on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. Students will be working through that, or workbooks that they're working on. There's also many assignments that will be given online. So they'll be completing both kinds of assignments. And I think the question was about, are all the lessons, are they online or coming from a book? The teacher will be providing some lessons over the internet, in a live synchronous instruction. But many of them will be from a book. Everyone will have a textbook or access to a textbook that is online. The district will provide you with a computer that can access the learning materials. Question, do we need a doctor's note to be able to attend independent study? You don't need to attach a doctor's note to the form, but you do need to explain your child's condition that you believe qualifies them for this independent study. And also, there's a question that you've discussed this with your doctor and that your doctor also recommends it as an option for your students. So those are just two questions that you should be ready to answer. So another question that this participant has a daughter who is in special education and is an incoming middle schooler. What should be done for her to qualify? So the first step would be to contact the special education department. If you don't have that number, it should be on our website, or you can contact your child's school or previous principal and they can get that to you. You need to schedule an individual education plan team meeting, and they need to together sort of determine that the homeschool option will be able to serve your child's educational goals. In many cases, it may not be. And as Mr. Valenti explained, we believe that the practices put in place last year that have been practiced up and down the peninsula and other San Mateo County school districts that were in place even in other states across the country led to very little, if any, transmission of the virus in the school setting. We did have students who were positive, but they all received that in the community. And so many believe that school is a safer place for students because there's less opportunity for the virus to transmit than being in the community and being at home and being with family over the weekends. Those are the opportunities where students have been able to be infected by the COVID virus. So we think that the school setting is a safe place. They get to be with their peers, and they get to be able to advance and develop normally. So, okay, one more question just came in. Is an otherwise healthy child able to participate in the independent home study program? We're not necessarily excluding healthy children, but we are prioritizing students with medical conditions. And so we don't yet have the staff who will be able to teach in the homeschool independent study program. We will be staffing it to meet the needs of our medically fragile students. And then should there be space, we would consider filling that space with students who just have a request. But I would suggest if you have a healthy child and you have healthy practices in your home, that school would be a safe option for you. And if you have any further questions, you should be able to speak to your child's principal about what specifically is happening in the school site. That's the last question that came in. Again, use the email info@jeffersonesd.org to send additional questions. We will capture these questions as well as any that come in through the email, and we'll create a document that will also be posted to our website so that you can refer to them in the future, or a family who's watching this on a recording will also be able to look at those questions. Anything else, Mr. Valenti or Ms. Scott?
No, I believe you've captured that. And again, if anybody has any questions or would like further information, I'm available for that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to serve your students, and we do hope that you would consider sending your child, especially if they're healthy, into our in-person school. We believe this year that is their best, that is a very safe and very good option for them, and we'd love to continue that conversation with you. If you do have a medically fragile student with health conditions, we also want to hear from you and want to be able to support you to provide your child with the education they need this year. And again, these numbers were minimums. If it turns out we just have one student that has that's on independent study and we have a person working with us half-time, that student might get a little bit more time than 45 minutes a day, but maybe not much more. But we will work with you according to the students that we have. So thank you so much. Again, use the email info@jeffersonesd.org. Visit the website tomorrow or Monday and find the intent to participate form there. And look forward to hearing from you and working with you. You will be contacted by your current site principal to go over any questions you might have, as well as the administrator over the home school program. So last question, and then we'll close here. It says, what if the parent doesn't understand the lesson? Can the parent ask a teacher for help? Great question. You will have the email of the teacher that is doing the independent study. If the teacher is working at a school site, they may give you the room number where you can call. So they will be available to support you in that through questions on email or phone, however you decide you want to communicate with the teacher. And they may not be able to pick up the phone right away because they're teaching at that moment another group of students, but they should be able to give you a call back. So what we tell students all the time, if you don't understand this part, make a mark next to it, skip it, and try something that you can do, and then come back to it and attempt it again later after you get help. So thanks again, everybody. We're going to end this webinar and end this recording. Thank you to our translators, Ms. Pamela and Mr. Ken. Very helpful to know that our families with different language needs can get the information as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.